I think my question as a pioneer of mindfulness, kind of, was it hard to introduce these thoughts in the practice to your family and friends without them kind of resisting? Because in a way you're saying, you should change your mindset, you should change how you're thinking, and I feel often people are like, well, what's wrong with my mindset now? So how do you overcome that resistance to try to help others learn about mindfulness without making them feel like
you're assured in there?
Maybe.
Okay, I don't think you've ever heard me say or read anything I wrote that said you should change your mindset. Okay, so this becomes so subtle because it's not a criticism, it's just a kind of reflection that very often we're not aware of how we go from a thought to speech. And sometimes, and so mindfulness of speaking or of how we voice our interior experience is very important. So this is not about making something happen or experiencing some great state and then telling everybody else how great it is. And, sort of, you asked about family and so on. My family just sort of, my wife, before I had children and so forth, she was just, if you're into it, great. Of course, it's a little weird. You just sit there for an hour doing that, go up on retreats and stuff like that. But at least I'm not a criminal, So she, with that kind of orientation. My father, who was himself a kind of super scientist, he thought it was the weirdest thing in the world, and that, I was like abandoning my career in molecular biology and all that Nobel laureate stuff and going off the deep end into the dark, the shadow world. But then finally he came around to once he saw full catastrophe living and realized that people actually respected it and was having effects in medicine, all of a sudden, hey, the guy wasn't so stupid after all. But, this is why I'm saying you really have to trust yourself. And I never tried to say to my wife, well, you should meditate. I never said to my kids, you should meditate. But my kids grew up seeing me meditate and seeing me doing yoga. And so they would just sit on top of me while I was meditating. Or climb on me while I was doing yoga. Or say, okay, Daddy, let's play yoga teacher. I'm the teacher, you do your yoga, you do what I tell you. And so you can make it all into play. And I think that it's really a good idea to think of this as play and be playful about it. And wherever you go, there you are. Which was written a very long time ago. There's this story about a young woman who decided she was a Buddhist, and she, because she got into mindfulness and so forth, and she said something like, "When I was a Buddhist, it drove my parents crazy, but when I'm a Buddha, nobody seems to have a problem at all." So it's all about embodiment, embodying who you are at the moment, not trying to change anything. So we're not trying to get better. We're not trying to get relaxed. We're aware of how unrelaxed we are. That itself can lead paradoxically to relaxation, but it's not about an endpoint. It's about the awareness. It's never about the objects of attention, although they're incredibly useful, the breath being incredibly useful, the body as a whole being incredibly useful, thoughts, emotions, lots of things can be objects of attention, but it's always about the attending itself. That wonderful thing that we can do in the English language, which is to take a verb and turn it into a present participle. So we're sitting. Okay. Then what that does is it actually evaporates the subject-object dualism. So there's breathing, but there's no breather. Do you know what I'm saying? So all you need to do is drop into breathing I'm going to follow my breathing, which is a narrative that puts me, I, me, and mine at the center of everything. But those are they're just pronouns. But awareness transcends the pronouns and is much larger than usually what the pronouns actually refer to. And so when you learn this when you're in your early 20s, it's like having, like expert dimensions of wisdom and reality that you can call on that don't change anything in the other dimensions of life except give you more degrees of freedom and perspective. How will I relate to this? How will I respond? And so I think the more you don't proselytize around it and tell other people how great meditation is and how much you should be mindful and all that, which is just terminally annoying. But just be yourself and trust yourself that the experience that you're having is good enough if you're aware of it, no matter what the experience is. And when you're whole in that kind of way, you can't even be harmed. Because you have more degrees of freedom to actually see things coming. I mean, I'm talking about even like in very scary situations. You have many more degrees of freedom in how you will choose to, where you will choose to be, how you will choose to react to or relate to, and also how you'll respond in conditions where there might be even life-threatening. So this goes to distance. I've got to tell you, I mean, because this is a law school class, I have to tell you that when I was at MIT, I was also like deeply into politics, and there's some of that in the book as well, in book 4. And at a certain point, I got very badly beaten up by the police in the back room of the Cambridge police station in Massachusetts. And very, very badly beaten up by the police. Now, in the Cambridge police station, they are practicing mindfulness in that same Cambridge police station. And the person who's teaching them is a filmmaker who made that film, Border Wars, that you may have seen. And he's an MBSR teacher, mindfulness teacher, and maybe even a lawyer, I'm not sure. Nick Stein is his name. And he's teaching mindfulness, very mindful of the fact that I got beaten up in that police station. Let's see, 50 years later or whatever it is. So you never know how things are going to unfold. And it's very important. I talk about subject-object duality. It's a big challenge in the law. It's very important, and in politics, not to turn the other into another and then dehumanize them. So, Democrat, Republican, black, white, we other each other constantly, and then go to war, or live in fear, or resort to violence, or whatever. And we have got to learn how to go from the dualism of us and them to the kind of inclusionary, non-dual notion that we're all in this together. And this is kind of, I think, has to be a major shift, because we're like Stone Age minds at the moment with nuclear weapons, and soon AI and self-driving, not cars, but tanks and drones and all sorts of killing machines. And it's the human mind behind it. So the human mind that doesn't know itself, that's how you get Auschwitz and the killing fields of Cambodia and Rwanda. And when the human mind does know itself, that's when you get the Miami Philharmonic Orchestra, or the Louvre, Madame So while, Bob Dylan said, which side are you on? Really, there are no sides anymore. I mean, it's just like humanity on this one planet. Yeah, we don't have another planet, where those other people would be better off. It's us, them is us. And this is a big lesson, but I think that the laws have to, in some sense, expand to the point where it's more explicit than ever about justice and equality. And not just have it be lip service or so vulnerable to the kinds of dystopic stuff that we see going on nowadays. Because, you get that sense the law is extremely vulnerable, and if it went south, I mean, as it did in Nazi Germany, I mean, a lot of people died. Millions. Cheerful subject, I guess. Anybody else want to bring something up? I'm just trying to relate that to the present participle, namely that when you are breathing, there's no breather. When you are seeing, there's no seer. So the story of who you are is much reduced from the actuality and the mystery of what it means to be human. And that's true for everybody. So from that point of view, othering really is very, very dualistic and not in accordance with any kind of wisdom or humanity that I know.
John.
Difference is fantastic, but it needs to be celebrated.
Self-other. What about within ourselves? Is there a self-other dynamic at play so that we tend to think of it as me and you, and I've got a sense of separateness, and how can I resolve that? What about within ourselves as well? Is there self and other?
Wonderful, yeah. How many people have that kind of warfare going on inwardly, like me and myself? I have a problem with myself, or myself, because there may be a whole platoon in there. Everybody wants to go in a different direction, and everybody's down on everybody else. And so this is where it's like important to realize, make real in your life that mindfulness is not saying, oh, fix that. It's not about fixing or changing. It's about recognizing the actuality of what's going on in the mind and befriending and seeing that it's just thinking. It's just thinking. And when you learn how to rest in awareness, and you become more and more comfortable resting in awareness, that awareness sees the emptiness of these kinds of constructs. And there's a fantastic poem. I don't know if you've shared Emily Dickinson's poem with them about me, for myself, the vanished. Okay, because we started out talking about personal pronouns, and I think you all just confessed that you are sometimes at war with yourself or don't like yourself, and if only you were this way, then people would love you more, or whatever the narrative says. It's all bullshit. Please remember that it's all bullshit. Every last clever little voice in your head is just total bullshit. It's just thinking. But if you want to make it real, you can imprison yourself really well. So this is Emily Dickinson. You have to listen to Emily Dickinson very, very carefully, because no one ever wrote like this before or after, and she apparently was at war with herself for a time at least. And it goes like this: me from myself to banish had I art, impregnable my fortress unto all heart. But since myself assault me, how have I peace except by subjugating consciousness? And since we're mutual monarch, how this be except by abdication me of me? think about all the times you were down on yourself. And it's interesting to ask, who's down on whom? Who is in there that's down on everybody else in there? So me, personal pronoun, me from myself, to banish, had I art, impregnable my fortress unto all heart. See, she was apparently very, very wounded in love. And impregnable my fortress unto all heart means I will harden my heart so that I will never be that wounded again. I won't be feeling, and therefore I won't be vulnerable. Which is, of course, a disastrous undertaking. But we often do that when we're really seriously hurt because we're so identified with our ego instead of realizing it's so much bigger than that. And, we create this big story about how in love we are, or we're, and how we couldn't live without. And it's all not true. So again, me from myself to banish, had I art, impregnable my fortress unto all heart. But since myself assault me, how have I peace except by subjugating consciousness? And since we are mutual monarch, me and myself, how this be except by abdication, me of me? So, how many of us have abdicated time and time again, betrayed ourselves in a certain way, so that we be liked, or so that we obey somebody else's perspective? And this is saying that is the path to true suffering, true unhappiness. So don't subjugate your consciousness. What's the opposite of subjugating consciousness?